I am really excited to welcome tonight anybody that doesn't already know, which I'm sure you do, Erin Thomas Wong from Life Friendly Business. See how eager everybody is to hear you speak. I told you.
Could we get the music turned off, please? Thank you.
So Erin is a mentor and speaker who helps entrepreneurs build businesses that support their lives, not the other way around. And I know that for us as writers, we really need some help in that. Whether you're writing your first draft, promoting your latest release, or you're somewhere in between, Erin's insights are especially valuable. So hopefully tonight's conversation is going to help you find out about ways to thrive in your own terms. So I thought we would start by having a little chat about that you've built a business that champions around boundaries and flexibility, emotional well-being. What was the moment that made you say, I need to do something different?
I think it's evolved over the years, but the first thing to know is that I used to work in television production, and I always wanted to work in TV, and I did it. And then it was when I had my first son, I thought, how am I going to work in this industry, which was, all in, completely, all the hours and working late at the drop of a hat. I thought, how am I going to balance that with being the mum that I wanted to be? My mum was a single mum. She had 6 jobs at some points, and she was never able to pick me up from the school gate. So that kind of thing was really important to me. And so that's when I started my first business, when my son was 6 months old. And immediately I entered this world of entrepreneurship, where I was reading the 4-hour work week and listening to all these podcasts and hearing all these often male speakers talking about the hustle and the grind and the sacrifice. And there I was, sleep deprived, very anxious as a new mum. And I thought it was just me. I thought I'm not being successful here, I haven't got what it takes. And then I started to speak to other women who felt the same. And I thought, this just isn't working, the messages that we're being fed. And actually, a lack of relatable female mentors is one of the top barriers to female entrepreneurship. So I realised it wasn't just me that was basically trying to turn myself inside out to fit the mould, and that we really need to start doing things in a way that suits us.
Fantastic. Wow. So you use the phrase life-friendly business so often, and yet it feels really personal. So what does it really mean to you, and how has that changed over time?
I think it's been recognising the fact that we all work differently, and we all have different energy peaks and flows, and working 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or whatever it is, it doesn't actually suit all of us, and we're not productive for that whole time. And I think for me, making it life friendly is about recognising that we are a whole person wearing all these different hats, and instead of pretending that we are just there to work and ignoring everything else and feeling like we'll be judged if we share what's really going on in our lives, that we need to recognise that we've got all these different things going on, and we need to find a way that we can work that suits that time in our life. And it is a lot about seasons in life as well. So for me, working in a life-friendly way is really about being quite fluid and being able to lean into the times when I feel creative, and then also lean into the times where I just want to crawl into bed and just want to hibernate. So it's like, how can you create a business or write around those things rather than fight against them?
Fantastic. So tell us about your business. What areas do you cover, and what tips, kind of topics can we expect to gain some gems of wisdom from you?
So my favourite things to talk about are being, really efficient with your time and being quite time savvy. And so that means being really clear where you're spending your time, and also putting systems and processes in place to help you make the most of the time. Getting visible as well, and putting yourself out there. Obviously, as an author, that's one of the big things that you know, you need to be doing, and you need to be marketing your own book. And you know, it's so easy to feel like someone else can just do that, but for most of us, we have to also take a hand in that. So getting visible, and also, you know, being the best boss to ourselves. And this is the same we were talking about with writing, that, you know, you are the creative engine behind what you're doing, and so we need to treat ourselves in a way that will bring the best out of us. And, you know, berating ourselves for all the things we're not doing isn't really going to help with that.
Also, many of those things rang true. I think when I started writing, I thought the hardest thing would be finding a publisher. But once you've done that, it's going to be plain sailing, right? Because they took care of everything. I mean, they take care of a lot, even with a really good publisher, but you still need to juggle so many things. And the concept of visibility is still really important.
It's so hard for so many of us, and I think it is, you know, we're all brought up with the idea that you shouldn't be smug, you shouldn't show off, you know, stay small basically.
Don't play your own trumpet.
Yeah, don't play your own trumpet. And also that selling is bad.
Yes.
You know, even if you're selling a book that will make someone happy to read it, there's something icky that so many people feel about that exchange of money. And you know, I work with, I've been through all of this myself, and I'm not saying that I'm completely been able to solve all those things. The whole money mindset and selling mindset is really hard, but I think the more we talk about it and are honest, the more we'll be able to push forward with those things and be okay about saying, I've written a book.
Yes. Do you think it's that imposter syndrome as well, that not only I've written a book, is it good enough, but also, am I good enough to be out there on social media talking about it?
Yeah, and how weird is it? Because you've actually written the book and it's out there, whether it's published or self-published, but yet we still question that.
It's insane, isn't
So
it?
God, it was before the pandemic. I went to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within event. I don't know if you've heard of this event. It was amazing. We walked on hot coals and things, and I was sat next to a woman who was a criminologist, is that the word? Really impressive young woman. She looked absolutely stunning, and he did this whole exercise about holding yourself back and what would happen if you didn't take the action that you wanted to take. And she revealed to me that she had published a book 2 years before, and she hadn't told anyone, not even her family. And it was like, whoa, and she was so scared of what they would say, and she was too embarrassed to tell her friends, and she didn't want people to feel like they had to buy the book or that they had to read it. And it was so sad, and she realised doing this exercise how desperately sad that was, that she didn't feel that she could say, look what I've achieved. And of course, after the event, when she shared it, everyone supported her. Of course they did. You know, we have all these stories in our heads that, you know, people are out to get us, and I think, you know, obviously there might be the odd one in your family who is negative, but most of the time people do want to support you, and so we've got to give them the opportunity to do that.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. That's amazing. Oh, wow. So I've just done Erin's Visibility Kickstart, which was amazing and completely inspiring. So I have been super efficient this week doing my business plan and getting myself on social media more. So sorry if I'm bombarding you.
It's Erin's fault.
So I'm going to talk about mental health and burnout, because those are topics really close to my heart. So for creatives who are struggling a lot, burnout can sneak up really quietly. What's one sign that we often ignore?
I would say persistent overwhelm. And I think, I think unfortunately we're living in a world now where we think that that's normal.
Yeah.
And I like to talk about the analogy of the snow globe. If you imagine shaking up a snow globe, all the snow is all, you know, everywhere, and you can't see clearly through the water. And if you're walking around with snow globe brain, which so many of us are, you're not going to be making the best decisions from that place. You're going to be making knee-jerk reactions to things. You're going to be feeling overwhelmed. You're not going to be able to have clarity on what your next steps are. And so often, what we need to do is learn how to put that snow globe down and let the snow settle, and then the water clears. But we don't, and we think that we can just jump from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, and be at our best selves. But I don't think we can. And I think the best thing we can do is learn how to put the snow globe down.
It's that sense of urgency, isn't it? You see it like coming at you, and you've got to respond.
Yeah. And that's I love technology. I love everything that online has brought to my life and to my business, but it is a double-edged sword, and we need to learn how to manage that for ourselves. And if social media is overwhelming, put boundaries in for yourself. If your mobile phone is calling to you all the time, and I know I'm addicted to mine, so I'm not standing here preaching, but put it in a different room. We have to do that for ourselves. No one else is going to do it.
Really good advice. So, boundaries and balance. So boundaries can be really hard for creatives who feel passion driven. I'm going to know this one. So what advice do you give for setting and sticking to boundaries that support both mental health and productivity?
This comes up pretty much every day with the people that I work with. And I think one way to really motivate yourself is to think about what life feels like without boundaries. So if you're feeling quite resentful to other people or to things in your life, if you're feeling irritated, if you're feeling like people are always asking things of you, it's probably that you haven't got your boundaries in place. And we're so good at saying yes to everything because we want to please people, we want to help people. If you love what you do, you're gonna, you're like, oh, but it's fine because I love it, so I'm going to over deliver and I'm going to do all those things. But at some point, you're going to reach that breaking point. And with boundaries, these are the rules that we put in place to protect our own energy and our well-being. And I think it's really good to think about what your non-negotiables are. What are the things that you really need to thrive, to be able to write in the way that to be creative, to be able to zone in when you want to zone in. And that's going to be different for each of us, but for me, changing my environment massively helps. So I love taking my laptop to a coffee shop, and obviously caffeine helps, but I go to nice places that make me feel nice, and I can zone in, and I don't have the distractions of home.
Oh, so
And other people love going for a run. I don't do that. But think about what it is that you need in your life, and also the things that make you feel bad when you don't do. So if you're a parent, it's like making the decision, I want to pick my child up from the school gates, or I want to make sure that I'm always there for a parents' evening. What are the things that are the absolute non-negotiables, and start there.
It sounds so simple when you put it like that, but it's still tough, isn't it, to actually put that into practice.
Yeah, and you have to keep stopping yourself. So just for now, acknowledge when you said yes to something, and if you feel really horrible, you have that feeling in your stomach of, I really wish I hadn't said yes to that. I really wish I wasn't doing that tonight.
Can I ask a question? Have you got any good scripts for being nice about setting boundaries?
And I would go on to ChatGPT and say, I think it is about learning to say no, isn't it? Or maybe not now.
Yes. Yeah.
Not right now. If you can't say no, but it is. The more I love the saying, every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
That's so true.
And I had a client who has been working really, really crazy hard, and she said to me, I think I've got to stop. I'm feeling like I'm right on the edge. And I said that to her, what are you saying no to? And she said, right now, my kids and my well-being. And it was that's not sustainable. Yeah.
It's really finding those priorities, isn't it?
Yeah. And you can't find your priorities when you've got snow globe brain.
No,
So you have to put the snow globe down first.
See, somebody gave me similar advice of take a breath, and then you can reset and you can think logically. I can't even remember to take the breath.
Yeah. Do you know what I saw on LinkedIn last week? Someone said they have given up making a cup of tea because they can't be bothered to wait for the tea bag to, what's the word, stew. And I thought, wow, how sad is that? That we're, and I know, like, I always try to do 3 minutes, and I do have to look at the clock and think, have I let it stew for 3 minutes? And it feels like a long time.
Yeah.
But it is so true that we're living in this fast-moving pace where people are like, "Do you know what? I can't even be bothered to." What?
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's not a good sign. It's not a good sign.
Wow. Okay, so we definitely need to pay attention here.
Make a cup of tea.
Absolutely. See, I'm terrible. I make a cup of tea and empty the dishwasher, or fill the dishwasher. So I'm still not just.
But also that's still, like, maybe your mind processes.
Maybe, because I'm away from my desk.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the other thing. We've got to stop making it wrong.
That's true. Oh, thank you. That makes me feel better. I was thinking I don't even take a breath when I'm making a cup of tea. So I was going to ask, but we may have covered it. What does work-life balance look like in practice for you, and how can writers start finding their own version of it?
Oh my God, they're all sewing together so nicely. Because I was going to say, you need to set your boundaries first, and then think about how you want your work week to look. And for me, you know, my kids now actually come home from school on their own, which is amazing. So I don't have the school run anymore, but I still work within school hours generally. And during the school holidays, I rarely have calls, very rarely. So I'm not technically working, but I can still work, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, and that's a very clear boundary for me. So summer holidays, you know, I would never arrange to do a launch or anything like that in the summer holidays. But for me, it is about properly allowing myself time to switch off. And I think the actual act of shutting down my laptop, not just closing the lid, actually is huge, because I know if I just close the lid and it's on sleep,
you'll go back.
I'll go back.
Yeah.
And one of my clients, she wears a lanyard at home, and then when she's finished working, she takes the lanyard off and hangs it up. So it's like creating that boundaries, yeah. Yeah. So for me, like, you know, work-life balance is about working, allowing myself to work in my energy. I'm not very good at saying, right, it's Monday, I'm going to do finance. Oh, like, I will never want to do that, and I will be like a child. I don't want to do that. So it's about knowing.
To the accountants, you know.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. It's about kind of knowing. I always know what I need to do. I always know what I need to do, and then I work with whatever my energy tells me to do.
Okay. Fantastic, thank you. So, back to imposter syndrome. Many writers quietly carry imposter syndrome or feel like they're always behind. So, how can you reframe those thoughts in a way that actually feels kind and motivating?
Well, I guess one thing is to whose time frame are we working? Like, obviously, you were saying people like might have hard deadlines for publishers, and that's obviously a different thing. But I love the phrase as well, stop comparing someone else's front stage to your backstage.
That's so, and we must do that so much with social media.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
And I think this is, again, about the fact that you can do things on your own terms, so there's no keeping up with anyone else. What is even that? You know?
Yeah.
And with the imposter syndrome, one thing that I really learned from Tony Robbins as well, this isn't a big advert for Tony Robbins, but was about validation from within rather than looking for validation from everyone else. Now, this is,
Authors, though, we are always
it's really hard. It is really hard, isn't it? But if you can get some validation from within, you're not going to have that big hole that drives the desperate need to get. Obviously, we all want good feedback. I'm not saying that,
Yes.
but there is something about really learning to acknowledge your own strengths and celebrate that. So someone I work with, she calls it your folder of awesomeness, and she suggests gathering any nice comments, so book reviews, anything anyone's ever said to you, like nice messages, and put it in your folder of awesomeness, and then you can check back in there when you're feeling a bit wobbly.
That's such a good idea, isn't it? Because we all have those 1-star reviews that crop up every now
And
and
they're
then.
the ones that stay.
They are the ones you
Yeah,
remember, word for word.
Yes, and that is human nature, and I think all of us, I haven't met anyone who has not had those moments of focusing on the negative rather than the positive. And it's just the way that our brains work, isn't it? But we can help it by steering ourselves back.
Which is remind ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I'm going to try this. So practical tips for authors. We were talking about visibility without burnout. So what's one visibility practice that feels both doable and genuine for the introverts among us, or those emotionally sensitive creatives?
I think going back one, really it's in the planning for visibility. So if you're just thinking one day, oh, I haven't done a post or I haven't told anyone about my book, and just kind of thinking, what shall I do, and then just throwing something out there, you're not going to be being strategic, and obviously then you're relying on being in the right mood to do something.
Yes.
Whereas if you can, like, even if it's once a month, once a fortnight, I try and do it once a week, but think about, what it is that you could be doing for your marketing of the book, how you can be reaching new people. There are lots of ways that you can do things that feel more comfortable than, going live on video or speaking to camera. Like, for example, on Instagram, you can use B-roll, like say out on the beach, like just filming the beach, moving video, that's called B-roll, and then you can put text over it, or you can do a voiceover. So you could read out snippets from your book if that was relevant. Like photo montages, not even, I love seeing people's faces, and when I'm speaking to business owners who they are their business, I think it's really important they have their face on there. But I understand for you guys it might be slightly different with the book. So it's like, what are the themes of the book, or that could be relevant in terms of imagery. But even like going to like a networking event, I know there's so many different types. Some are better for introverts than others.
Yeah.
So I really think that we need to think about the things that we feel more energetically drawn to, and spend less time doing the things that we absolutely hate.
Yeah, because this is the sense of obligation. You see what everybody else is doing and think, oh, that's what I have to do to be visible, but maybe not.
There are so many different ways that you can get visible, so you can absolutely design it around what you love. But I really think with the planning, because what I encourage people to do is to create a content bank. So I know this is slightly different with writing, but it's basically thinking about the kind of messages that you want to put out there, the kind of content, so like stuff in the books, things like that, and creating documents with all of those in that you can refer back to at any time. So you've always got content to use. So you don't have to rely on being in the moment, right now, in the mood to go and do a post. You actually can schedule them in advance and know that you've got consistency of visibility, because that's the big thing.
Yeah, actually that's one of the things that you inspired me with in your course last week. We were talking about the pillars behind your social media, so what are the key, you can explain it better than I can.
Yeah. So I talk about content pillars in terms of, what are the core themes that you want to be known for, and these are topics that need to be important to your reader, or I would say ideal client, but also your values as the business. So for example, my core themes, one would be the life-friendly approach, but under that I can talk about time management, I can talk about the job, I can talk about mental health. So it's going to be really hard for me to run out of ideas, because I've got these 4 pillars with all these micro topics underneath, and then I have like a Google Doc with time management tips, for example, and I've just got loads of different time management tips, and so I can just copy and paste one, put it with a picture, and it's done. So and you kind of rotate through these content pillars, so people get to know you for the different things you're talking about, but you don't need to say new things every single day.
Yes.
It's like, it's your evergreen content that's always going to be relevant.
Such a good idea, and it's really reassuring when I've actually started to put that into practice. Come up with a daily social media plan, a weekly social media plan, looking at one of these elements each day, and so I don't have to panic on a Monday and I think, what am I going to put now?
Yeah. Well, I guess actually, if you've got a book that you're promoting, you can take the themes from that book and to create a document that each sees. And then, because you know, a post, it only needs to be a couple of lines, it's not an essay if you're talking about social media. So, yeah.
So visibility can often trigger fear of judgment, not being good enough, not being ready. What mindset shifts? There we go, got that. Have helped your clients navigate that?
This is an ongoing challenge for people, and I think finding people that you can talk to about this and recognising that that's what's stopping you. Because, you know, we can have all these other ideas of why we're not putting ourselves out there, because I don't have enough time. Well, you know, this is the thing, like and some people do have less time, you know, depending on their life situation, but it is about priorities, and, you know, and putting yourself out there with visibility is something that you do need to be taking some time to do. But I love the whole idea that actually people are way too busy thinking about themselves and their own lives to really care what we're doing, and our own inner critic is just crazy with all the things that we think people might be thinking. And actually, for me, it was turning 40 that I'm 46 now, and I was just like, do you know what? I'm so sick of caring about that stuff. And like, don't get me wrong, like I still have my moments, but I think we have to get to that point of acceptance that we can't control what other people think. But if we don't do the things that we want to do because of that fear, we're the ones that suffer, and the people that we could be helping or entertaining or whatever it is. So, you know, just keep pushing yourself to get past the fear, because the things that we think people are thinking, they're probably not. And if they are, they're not worth the time.
No, and it's going to be such a small minority that actually do think that, and the rest are gaining something on their value. So what's the one thing that you wish every creative knew about running a life-friendly business? One favourite tip?
That there's not only one version of success.
That's a good one.
So I think that's one thing that I really fell into with the whole entrepreneurial stuff, is that, you know, this is what success looks like, this is what you should be aiming for. If you're not aiming for that, what the hell are you doing? If you're not working in this way, you're not doing it right. And actually, we all get to decide for ourselves what success means. And the same with your writing, you know, what is success to you? For some people, it's getting published. That it ends there. It's like an amazing achievement. So, like, realising that you don't have to constantly be in competition with other people.
Yes. And you see the way that they work, and you think, well, I should be like, I know some authors that are doing 6 books a year. How? I can't even manage 2 a year.
It's just the fact you're saying that.
As I'm doing 100 other things,
I
yes.
haven't managed 2 in a century.
But you measure, everybody does it though, don't they? You see what the production rate or the success or how many sales they're getting. You can't help but think, oh, what are we doing wrong?
But, you know, I do massively think as well that we, you know, one of the measures of success is our happiness. One of the measures of success is our health. You know, other people's well-being around us, like whether we're making a positive impact, whether we have time to do the things in our life we want to do, whether we've got time to look after our parents who might need us now. Like, there's all these different things, and we actually lived in Abu Dhabi for a year, about 9 years ago now, living the expat lifestyle, and for so many people that's like, oh my goodness, you know, 6-star hotels and all this stuff, and we hated it. And I would say to my friends, I'm actually really depressed, and they'd be like, oh, but there's palm trees and there's blue skies every day, and you're going to the swimming pool. And I was like, that doesn't mean happiness. And I think that was a massive realisation for me, to just, you know, you can paint a picture of success, but we've each got our own measures, and we need to stay true to them.
We often overlook, I think, measuring them ourselves, don't we? We're so fixated on the things you can always see.
Yeah. And climbing a ladder you know, I do think that we need to be making progress to be happy. I think that is one of the things that, you know, and progress in all sorts of different areas, but, you know, that's one of the things we all like to be striving for something, but to what end?
So we've kind of covered some of my questions, so I'm just going to skip ahead. And so what's lighting you up in your own work right now?
I think lots of the conversations we've talked about tonight about mindset, confidence, all those things, like the fact that I get to have these really honest conversations with women every day and talk to them about that, and you know, and I'm very honest about the journey that I've been on as well, and being able to create a safe space for them to talk without fear of judgment, and you know, and they can tell me honestly what's going on in their life, and I'm not going to say, why haven't you done X, Y, Z? I'm going to say, okay, well, let's make a plan to work around that, and that's really important to me. And you know, I'm lucky now that I do get feedback every week from people saying that I've helped them. So although I've worked with the validation from within,
Yes,
I do very much appreciate that. So yeah, so knowing that I'm having a positive impact is, yeah, that keeps me going.
It's time to open it up for questions if anybody. Oh, there we go.
Well, it's not a comment on a thank you, because you mentioned your father of awesomeness to me several years ago. And I actually did it thinking, oh, well, I'm not going to put that. But it has rescued me and pulled me back from the brink on a number of occasions.
Wow.
So I have to say thank you very, very much. It was absolutely a lifesaver.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you.
And what you were saying about the whole boundaries thing, you know, I'm still very bad with boundaries. Even though I know when you mentioned it to me, I think 8 years ago when we met, I knew even then it was important.
Yeah.
But as a people pleaser, I have to keep reinforcing it. I keep having to stop and double check that I am actually putting what I want up there with everybody else as well. And I think that's almost so deeply ingrained that we do actually very engaged. And you do your days when you can actually go and do retreats with people.
The CEO days, yeah.
And is that a point where people can start thinking again, maybe you need to take a few steps backwards?
Exactly, yeah.
How kind of more effective.
We've got to keep reassessing because life moves so quickly and our circumstances change as well. So with boundaries, it's not just like doing the exercise once and thinking, basically, as soon as you start feeling like uncomfortable about what you're doing, or you know, feeling resentful or feeling irritated or all those things, it's like, okay, hang on a minute, let's review this. And I think that's one thing that we don't do enough of, is taking that time to reflect on how things are and then making the changes, because you don't have to stay in the place you're in.
Yes. And when you call them CEO days, which is
Yes.
a great title, are you suggesting that actually we are the CEOs of our life?
Yes. So for me, so a CEO is the chief decision maker. So even if you're a solopreneur, you're the CEO of your business, and absolutely, you know, the CEO of your life. And these are days that I do at the Martian Court, and there's like maximum 10 women, and it's that opportunity to just be together and reflect and talk things through, and then plan ahead what changes you're going to make, what's important. Actually, I'll never forget one of the women that came. We went through the whole day and she was so overwhelmed, and she just said at the end, I'm not going to do anything else, I'm just going to do what I'm doing now, because it was like, it's enough. She just needed to get that clarity. Like, it's not always about doing more, it's about doing things in a more savvy way, I guess.
Yes. I think that's very true actually. I have to admit that I made a decision many years ago that I had taken a wrong turn in my late teens, and I should have been a writer all along. And I was actually, I'm in my 40s, and I wanted to do anything I could to get back on the track that I wanted to see on. But it took me a long time to realise that I had control over the people. Quite right, it's just deciding that you you are allowed, you're a grown up, you're allowed to make decisions and actually can say no
Yeah.
as well. And I think that mindset is a big shift this year for me, and actually, not trying to advertise the business, but it was continuous and really rethink about that. Again,
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure other people.
Well, I think what you just said there about making the decision is absolutely true, and I could do a whole talk about our experience in Abu Dhabi, but I was really desperately unhappy there, and I remember having that realisation that no one was coming to save me.
You have to give yourself time to
Yeah. And it's a hard thing to take, but it does make you think, right, come on then, let's just, no one else is going to do it for you.
No, and I think part of that also is realising that your appreciation for what is different from someone else's. And that doesn't mean that yours is not right, just because other people have different values.
Yes, yes.
And actually, it took me a lot of hard work. And there were points where I wasn't sure I was making the right decisions. But I am so glad that I made that change.
That's amazing.
So much happy. It's wonderful.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Joanne?
Very much what Mr. Lady was saying. The father of awesomeness, I often say that because I've got a shoebox, of wonderful thank you notes from clients and students over the years, and I always felt guilty about that. I didn't realise other people did that. And I always thought it was such a great idea to have it there on hand, for the rain day. But each of the magnets, and somehow it's never one component, they do make a difference. So thank you for sharing that. And the other thing that you said about, I would say to my friend and I have tried to say, a bit more down, we always think that she writes this, no one is coming. And it really makes a difference, certain words, no one is coming.
Yeah.
We've got to do it ourselves.
Yeah. Thank you. Did you say you felt guilty about having a box of nice
Well, yes,
things?
because I didn't know anyone else did that, and because I thought people throw out all these cards, and I kept those of that. Because they were so beautiful.
Yeah.
People write such beautiful, I love words. People write such beautiful things, but I think how can you throw that away? And I was automatically doing what you said, but I didn't realise that it just feels good. Wow, remember that moment.
Because it is one thing that I know I used to do massively is deflect when people said nice things.
Yes.
And I think we can feel so uncomfortable with receiving praise. And I love the idea of, it's basically like someone's giving you a glass ball, a really fragile glass ball where they're giving you a compliment. And so many of us go, oh, and throw it away and it shatters. But we need to take it really gently and say thank you and hold on to it and try and absorb it, because otherwise we're just deflecting all the time. So I think that helps with the validation from within, is accepting the glass ball.
And Steve, probably possibly, did you know that we were podcasting?
Oh.
You have mentioned that before?
Because you mentioned the 7-11 rule or something like
Yeah.
that, and that was my penny drop moment. And I think I was doing your visibility webinar, I don't know
Yes.
what you call it.
Yes.
But it was when you said you need so much content for people to trust you, to get to know you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So this is Daniel Priestley. There is a Diary of a CEO podcast episode, and Daniel Priestley was explaining, so the traditional marketing funnel that that we've all learned about, putting people in the top and then they filter down and the highest ticket things are at the bottom, that is now changing, and actually Google are calling it the messy middle, where people find out about you and then they explore and evaluate, and it's like, and then hopefully eventually they buy. And Daniel Priestley said, in order to build up that relationship with a potential client or customer, you need 7 hours of content for them to consume, 11 points of interaction, and over 4 platforms. So it's a bit overwhelming when you when you first think of it. And so it's going to take time to build up, but like that's 7 hours of content, obviously a book,
Yes.
Video, podcast, blog posts, like free downloads, like a mini ebook, things like that. So like it's really interesting to think of it in terms of that. And then also with the 11 interactions, that's thinking about those touch points that like just doing one thing for your visibility might not be enough. Like we need to have a multi-level approach to what we're doing so that we can catch people at different points and remind them that we're there.
Because just because you tell something once, something once doesn't mean they're going to get it.
No, and I think that like historically they had said 7 times people need to hear it. Then they changed to 22, and that was years ago. So I think so now I think 7 hours of content, 11 interactions over 4 different platforms or avenues is But don't let it overwhelm you. Just I mean
I found that actually freeing. So
Yes.
I thought, oh, that's no problem. I just need to create a content, but like you said, the content. I need to create 11 I remember whether it was 7 or 11 hours of content, but I need to create that amount of content, and I'm a writer, and therefore I should be able to do that.
Yeah, and it's when you're thinking about how much you need to sell, you need to think about a conversion rate, which is like 2 to 5% on average. So you need hundreds of people, to sell something little. And actually, it's not always easy to sell something cheaper than it is something more expensive. It's often the same decision-making process. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for me as well.
Thank you.
Getting all the validation tonight. Anybody else have a question?
I think there's something to be said there as well for actually being able to ask for some help. Because that's something that a lot of that's something that I am particularly bad at, is trying to think that I'm just going to be able to do it all. And on the occasions when I just felt pretty overwhelmed and thinking, I'm crashing down, some help has come along and I sort of thought I should have asked for that. And actually learning to ask for that help can really make a difference and actually take away some of the things that some of those plates that you're spinning or the balls that you're juggling. And give you that little bit of extra time to focus on things that really are important.
Yeah.
So, I don't know whether anybody else struggles with asking for help, but that's certainly a problem for them.
It is weird that we think that we should be able to do everything ourselves and know everything as well. One thing I always say to people is like think about what help or support you've got already in your life that you're not utilising. How many times has somebody offered help and you said, oh no, it's fine. We do it all, deflecting the glass ball. So, what can we do to make use of the tools and the resources and the people that we already have? But that's one thing I like, that's one of my little sayings is I like to support these women while they're supporting everyone else. I feel like I'm their cheerleader, supporting them, because often, they're juggling all these other things and, running a business and also looking after children and parents and, and your own well-being just is bottom of the pile, isn't it?
I think part of the problem that can be if you are a bit of a perfectionist and you sort of think to yourself, well actually, I want something done in a certain way and I'm going to be the only person to do that. But actually if you can just let go of that, you don't have to strive for perfection every time. Sometimes good enough is good enough. And that's really, really worth remembering.
Yeah. What's the saying? Imperfect action is better than inaction. And with online stuff these days, you can go and edit it. You can go and delete it if you want, but we have to just get the stuff out there, don't we? I think perfectionism is, and often that comes from snow globe brain as well, not being able to see clearly, so not being sure that you want to make a decision about putting it out there because you're not sure because your brain's all full of all these other things. So sometimes putting the snow globe down will help you make that decision, yes it's ready, or no it's not.
Say maybe also with these 7 hours of content, yes you've written a book, but in terms of social media, maybe it's a question about let's do one post, then do another post. And yes, you can get these programs on LinkedIn programs and all that, but if you're new to social media, it's amazing how quickly they actually build up. And I started a YouTube channel at the beginning of COVID, which was just to do drawing for mental health. And I was literally doing my own recipes, videoing myself doing it, talking about what I was doing, and then putting it on YouTube and just ignoring it. And actually, by the end of COVID, I had so many hours of painting content on there that people actually following me, and I was really sick. I wasn't expecting anyone to actually follow me. But actually, there's quite a lot there. There's still goes back and likes and views and useful, and I've kept going with it, and actually it builds up without me even realising. And actually, in some respects, rather than seeing the format, just see it, the next step, and then the next step, and it just slowly does come together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If you can see that you're sort of heading into burnout and there's some things that you should do how do you do it?
Think about what you can get rid of out of your diary. We were talking before about saying no to things, and actually it's really not as bad as you think. You know, you worry about letting people down and all these kind of things, and actually most times people are like, oh, okay, yeah, fine, we'll just reschedule. So I would say empty out your diary as quickly as you can. If you can, I had a client actually who just, she was like, I've got to take a break. So we said, right, send a message now that you're closed for 2 weeks. And she had to reschedule. She was a therapist, so this was big stuff. But she knew she needed that. She just got to that point. So I think creating space for yourself, looking for support from professionals or people around you. But I think one thing, we can be really unrealistic about how long things take us, and so we schedule our week with an inch of its life.
Yes.
And I've always remembered someone telling me about our stress levels and how if we're living on an 8 or a 9 out of 10 every day, it just takes one thing to go over the top. So if you can think on a daily basis of how can I be at a 5 or a 6, you know, you've got that buffer. But when you're feeling like you're, edging into burnout, you are going to be at a 9. So yeah, thinking about what you can do to reduce that pressure cooker feeling. So
I quite enjoy doing a to-don't list.
Yeah.
What can I not do?
Yeah. But often there are so many things that we put on ourselves to do, and they're not urgent, and and they can either just be dropped or they can be 6 months down the line. Like, kind of push things back if you can. Yeah, but I've had a lot of counselling over the years as well, and that's massively helped me. I really champion getting support. Yeah.
It's really helpful to have somebody external to talk to.
Yes.
Even if it's through counselling or through speaking to other writers. I think I don't know if you know that we do coffee mornings. I think that's been really helpful for a lot of people to just kind of say where they're stuck with and what they're tackling, and just have somebody else that gets it.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is that when you have a space where you can talk freely like that, you realise that everyone has stuff going on, and you think that they've got it all figured out, and actually we're all often struggling with similar things, even though we're in completely different industries or backgrounds or situations. So the more you talk about it, I think the easier it becomes to kind of have that acceptance that we'll get through it. Yeah.
Sorry, are you planning to write about Mumpreneur evolution?
I'm trying to get Dominic to do that. I think that needs to be from a man. I've got a membership called the Cocoon, which is for women. And I've had men before say, like, oh, it would be amazing for a man. I'm like, well, a man needs to run it then. Go on, off you go. Because it's needed.
Yeah, but most of the thing, is there any kind of dividing line on how men and women react to, feeling overwhelmed, feeling, burnout, because there are some expectations, right, on men as well to perform all the time.
Yes. I feel like men don't talk enough about it to each other. And I think that, you know, that we do need some male role models to come out and create community. I mean, there are some, but, you know, to do more on that and allowing a space, because I think there is added pressure for men with the way society has been, that they have to, you know, be the providers and the earners and all this kind of stuff. But I feel like it needs a man to be there, because you've got to be able to resonate as well with. I mean, I can empathise, but I don't know what it's like to have those pressures. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? Is there anything else that you particularly get asked a lot, or that you'd really love to share with us?
Oh, actually, there's a really nice analogy. I do like my analogy. So there's a book called Do Less, and she talks about the fact that farmers know that they need to leave the soil to lay fallow so that they have a bumper harvest. But we expect ourselves to be in a bumper harvest mode all year round. And it's, you know, similar to the snow globe thing. Like, we just need to allow the soil to lay fallow. And in this book, you know, she says sometimes that can be years of laying fallow. Other times it could be a week or, you know, a month. But basically, if we are feeling like we should be constantly productive, it's a bit unrealistic. So yeah, I really like that one. So leave the soil to lay fallow, and then you'll bounce back much more productively.
So how can we follow you and find out about all your CEO days and everything else?
So my website's lifefriendlybusiness.com. I'm on social at lifefriendlybiz. I've got some leaflets here, and yeah, my book Mumpreneur Evolution, which I published during lockdown, which is really sad because I didn't get to have a launch party or anything. But it's a collection of interviews with 23 women who've all been building their businesses around family life. And I have a podcast as well called the Life Friendly Business Podcast, which is a lot of what we've been talking about tonight.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much.